Please join us in opening ceremonies. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Join me for a moment of silent prayer. Amen. The agenda item number 3 is approval of tonight's agenda. There's no additions or changes, so if someone would go ahead and make that motion.
So moved. Support.
All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item number 4 is the time that we provided growing and growing. Do we have to get more chairs, I guess? At every city council meeting for input from our citizens. We usually have you speak on non-agenda items at this point, so I don't know if anybody's here to speak on any non-agenda items, or just going to listen to what we do. 10-4. Okay, so thanks everybody. I don't see anybody that wants to share anything, so we will go ahead and go to agenda item number 5, which is approval of minutes. That's exhibit 1 in your packet. And that was from March 16, 2026. If you had a chance to look that over and kind of review it. If you have any changes or if there aren't any, I would entertain a motion for approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion. Agenda item 6 is time for a public hearing on the matter of adoption of plan specifications, forms of contract, and estimate of cost for the construction of the Madison Place Extension Project. And Jason is going to come up. I'll go ahead and open the public meeting. Jason, and you can tell us the story.
Yeah, we had 6 bids were received for the Madison Place Extension. Bids are ranging from $730,000 to $1.1 million. Engineer's estimate was $1.08 million. Low bid was submitted by Salzma Excavating for $730,000. City staff and Beck Engineering recommend awarding the contract to Salzma.
So that was like a nice number of bidders. Were you pleased with that? Yeah.
Very pleased.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good.
Very happy with the
Good.
numbers that came in. Yep.
Great. Great. Any comments?
Complete that.
Not sure yet. Probably early June, and completion is September 30.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? So we'll close the public hearing, and then we need 2 motions. Is that correct, Janet?
Yes.
And just motions?
Yeah.
Okay. We need a motion to adopt plan specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost.
Support.
All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the second motion is a motion to approve the consideration of the bid and award of contract to Salzma. What's your official name? Salzma Excavating.
So moved. Support.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Tonight, we are privileged to welcome back a face that we all know. Maybe not. I always saw a side view, so anyway. But Steve Reisner is here to talk to us about the Downtown Vision Task Force report. We're thankful that you had the time. Or you're going to be up on the screen. I better move. The time to come and keep the council and city and citizens informed. So we'll turn it over to you, Steve, and thanks for coming.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. We're here today to report out what this task force has been doing over the last 8 months or so. And last summer, there was a turning point, I think, in the community. And that turning point was, rather than watch what's happening in a lot of rural communities, the retail is slowly dying and constricting. This community, between the City Council, the Development Corp, and the chamber endorsed an effort by the retailers to start visioning for the future. What does retail look like, and what does the vision look like going forward? And to be real, there is pressure. There's pressure online. There are statistics out there that are saying by 2030, 35% of the sales, all retail sales in the United States, will be online. Today it's about 22, 23%. So that's changing things. There's obviously pressure from surrounding communities, you know, and where people are doing their shopping, how they're going about doing their shopping. So behavior's changing. But today I'm not here to talk about losing. I'm here to talk about how do we move forward, and together, how do we put together a clear, unified plan to give us the greatest position potentially for success. So I'm here representing the retailer. I'm the one doing the speaking, but I actually would say my role in this process was the consultant, which is the business I now do. So I'm working for and with this whole group of retailers and just representing what they did. So a while back, so today we're going to do three things really. Share some of the key findings that we went through over the last 8 months. Second is give you a kind of a framework of a plan and how to move forward. And then thirdly is to request, we've been to the Development Corp, to the Orange City City Council, and request your support and consideration for how do we move forward. So when we set out, we started talking about where do we go with retail, and we had three primary questions that we decided to deal with. One is what are the underlying factors that create performance inconsistency across retailers? I want to explain that a little bit. If you talk to the retailers downtown, some of them are doing extremely well, and some of them are not doing well at all. And we went through the process of trying to uncover why is the inconsistency, right? What's happening with the inconsistency of those retailers? Second is, what is it going to take to strengthen them, both in retail and service business long term? And not like a quick fix, because I don't think there's a silver bullet. If there was, it'd be really nice. I think some of you in your practice would probably people come in and they want a pill and they want to just fix things, right? It doesn't work that way. And then thirdly, what role should the city, the chamber, the development, the retailers and partners play in that process? So we started that. The first thing we uncovered really quickly was this inconsistency challenge. If you walk, there's this cycle that happens that makes perfect sense when you think about it. So if you have inconsistent traffic as a retailer, what's your first thing that happens? You think, well, my sales aren't going the way they want. So what's the natural reaction to that? The natural reaction typically is, well, I need to back off, right? I need to cut back my inventory purchases. I need to cut back my staffing, you know, and start trying to figure out how to right size. Then what happens? Your consumer sees that. They see less inventory. They see less open hours, and it becomes a cycle. So then what the consumer does, they find an alternative, right? And sad to say, Amazon's made it really easy to have an alternative. So you find an alternative. And then what happens? The foot traffic further decreases, right? So then the cycle continues. So that's the first thing we identified. And so somehow we need to break out of that. We need to break that cycle because that's a no-win game. Additionally, we went out and did a lot of work, and I'll talk about three things. I'll talk about national trends, I'll talk about regional trends, and local trends. And the foundation of that is we need to understand where we're at. If we're going to try and adjust or fix or move, we need to understand from where we're starting, right, before we can adjust or move. So starting at the national level doesn't fare real well for small rural communities. There are over 6,000 communities that have a population of 6,000 or more in the United States. And we're seeing in some of those communities, they're seeing nationally, there's a 30% decline in retail sales. Not to be a gloom and doom and like the sky is falling, but the challenges are great. And you can pretty much figure out where that's coming from. In fact, they now talk about something they call a 30-mile rule, that if you don't have the available goods and services within 30 miles, online purchasing typically is about 15% in some of the rural communities because they're a little bit more loyal. But if you don't have those stores, it jumps to 45% online, right? It makes perfect sense, right? It's logical that I can't get access to what I need at 11 o'clock at night. I can get it from Amazon and probably have it in 2 days. And I'm not endorsing Amazon, but I know how it works, right? And I think we all use it in some way. And then I gave you the statistics on what's going to happen. So now let's talk about regionally. If you look around regionally, so that's what's happening at a national level. At a regional level, Sioux City has taxable sales of about 2.3 billion. Sioux Falls has taxable sales of 7 billion. Draw a little closer. Everybody's going to, you know what I'm going to say next, but I'm going to go south first. We're going to go to Le Mars first. Le Mars has 213 million in taxable sales. Sioux Center has 240 million. We have 143. Now, that sounds like positioning, right? So you can guess, but just so for your information, I'm aware that the Walmarts do 60 million or so. So, right, that's in that number in terms of sales. But it drives traffic too, right? People drive to Walmart. So that's one of the things that's happening regionally. The good news is over the last 4 years, Orange City has increased 35%. Surrounding communities have increased 7 to 15, 16%. A bigger number, the percentage of dollars are more, right? But you get what's happening. So that's at the regional level. At the local level, we went out and surveyed our businesses, and to be real candid about our businesses, we surveyed our businesses and asked them to score themselves. Gold, meaning we're killing it, we're doing really well, we're happy with our business. Green, meaning it's good, it's decent, but it could be better. Yellow, meaning it's not where we'd like it to be. And red, meaning we're in trouble. 75% of our businesses were green or below. Now, 47% of those businesses indicated that they were in yellow or red. Now, we had to be clear disclosure, we had a random sample. We did sampling, and we had about 15 or 17 people respond. So it's not the full population, but it's hopefully a representative sample. But you get the picture of what's happening with retail and where the pressure is. So that leads to headwinds, tailwinds, right? And where do we go as a community with our retail? So that's where we started with all of the data. And we have all that information, now how do we turn that into action? And the approach that you have to turn things into action, here's a little bit about the regional, what's happening regionally. There's another thing that goes on. Some of the regional areas have claimed the space of value-oriented, high convenience, quick access, mass merchandise, right? Low price, right? They've claimed some of that space, and Walmart helps you do that, right? To be honest. But you claim that space, and shocker, we're probably not going to get a Walmart here. I'll never say never. You never give up, but it's highly unlikely we're going to get a Walmart. So that leads us to where do we head from there? We have all this data, we have all this information, what do we do with it? The good news is that what's happening with online access, with online information, is the consumer's changing a little bit the way they shop and what they want out of shopping. And they're moving more, the data is indicating that they're moving more toward, instead of just buying product alone, they're looking for a quality of experience. Right? They're looking for a type of experience that goes with. So we started saying, okay, if we're going to move forward, the first thing you have to do is have a compelling vision. And to make the point of the compelling vision, how many of you know who Howard Schultz is? Just one or two. If you go to leadership classes, you know this, and you'll all know it when I say it. He's the founder of Starbucks. You know where he came up with the idea of Starbucks? He came up with the idea of Starbucks in 1983 when he was in Milan, Italy, and he was in an Italian coffee shop. And he noticed that, in America at that time, I was around at that age. I was just out of college, so some in this room figured we're not. But anyway, he noticed that in America, it was you buy cheap coffee, right? At the time, I think you go to McDonald's and you buy a cup of coffee for $25. Coffee was cheap. But he went there and he had this experience with espresso and things, and he came back and he decided he was going to bring that espresso bar experience to the United States. He was industrious. He started in 1987. He got some investors and they bought Starbucks, which at that time had 17 stores. Today, Starbucks has 39,000 stores globally, and they do $35 billion a year in sales. But he took something that was a commodity and he turned it into an experience. And you'd like to say he's innovative and creative, but he just found what was happening in Europe and brought it here. So we started with the sense of vision. you first have to decide where you're aiming and what you're aiming at. Zig Ziglar, years ago, again, I date myself because some of you don't know who Zig Ziglar is, but he was a powerful speaker. Zig Ziglar made the comment that if you aim at nothing, I can guarantee you'll hit it 100% of the time. The idea is, what's the target, right? What are you aiming at? So we started with, hey, what's the compelling vision, and how do you build on the strengths of Orange City? You can't just start all over. So how do you build on the strengths of Orange City? So the vision and the team started working with, let's find things that are walkable, bikeable, increasing the predictable rhythms. You know, let's get something that builds on our Dutch, European, and heritage. I'll explain that in a minute. And so we moved forward with a positioning statement. And we started with that because we needed kind of a center. We needed an aim and a focus. And we said, okay, what do we want to try to accomplish with? So we came out with a retail positioning statement that we developed. Was Orange City offers a welcoming retail destination experience rooted in our Dutch European heritage and defined by genuine hospitality. Our Molen District shops, we're calling the retail areas Molen Districts, and shared spaces are designed to invite visitors and residents alike to slow down, explore, gather, and thoughtfully shop. Drawing people together through warm hospitality, vibrant storefronts, gathering spaces, and thoughtfully curated experiences. Orange City will provide meaningful reasons to linger, return, and support local businesses. Now let's talk about Dutch. I sat where you guys sat for 20 years, and Dutch is something, and I'm not Dutch. My wife is. We're all Americans, right? But our heritage. But when you hear that, we had some resistance in our retail group. We had some resistance to the Dutch, and I want to explain that because I think the resistance was viewed as ethnicity and you know, exclusive or excluding. And when we bring that phrase, I don't want people to get hung up. We're talking about marketing. We're talking about positioning. We're talking about how to compete in a marketplace where there are 6,000 communities that have more than 6,000 people, and we're just another one of them, right? So how do we break through, and how do we create, and then we have all these other trends that are pushing us. So we moved it to a European, and getting back to Howard Schultz, and here's what we'd like to focus on, the differences. The American way is, let's do it fast, let's do it efficient, let's make a transaction, let's get in and out, let's have parking, let's have high flow roads, right? Convenience and in and out, right? Make things happen, and so we're not wasting time. If you go to Europe, and you've been to Europe and experiences, it's a totally different experience. Anybody been to Europe and you go out to eat? How long is an average meal in Europe?
A couple hours.
2 hours is fast, right? Yeah. And it drives Americans nuts. But they found a different way, and Howard Schultz capitalized it. They work with connections and experience. And they linger, and they have walkways, and they have shared plazas and piazzas, right? And the more local kinds of, and so there's a sense of community. And so that's when we say Dutch, we're talking about that kind of environment. We're not talking about the ethnicity, but obviously the Dutch fronts and bring that, and that's how we position ourselves. But we want to be really clear that it's more than just an ethnicity. It's about positioning. And it's about heritage and background, but we don't want it to be viewed as exclusive. Now, all of that comes together there's data out there that shows that if people linger, they dwell, they browse, for retailers, they spend more. People that come to Tulip Festival, there's studies out there that people that come to events, 96% of them admit that they spent more than they budgeted. So almost 100% of them spend more than, so like if we had more events, would they spend more money, right? So when they linger, they browse. Other things that have done, the University of Washington did a study that said when you have a retail environment that incorporates natural elements, kind of a friendly area where you can sit and rest and enjoy, and infrastructure, they have found that what happens there is people travel further, they stay longer, and they visit more frequently. And for us, if we're totally capitalistic, they spend more money, right? So the data shows and supports that. So when we talk about the lingering, browsing, spending, it's not just kind of a fun little feeling. It's data supported that shows that it gives us a better chance of getting more spending. So that's what our group came up with in terms of what we saw. And when we broke this out, we basically said, okay, now how do we get there? What are the things? And we tried to be comprehensive. And so I'll say we built it on 4 pillars. And we went through a lot of brainstorming, a lot of ideas. We have scores of lists. We have scores of rankings. And we tried to group those and say, okay, what are the 4 things that we need to... So if we're going to build something for the next 10 years, the building is like foundation. So we have 4 pillars. First is a sense of place. And that's what I was just talking about. The vision, the brand positioning, the identity. Who are we going to be, right? Because that's the target. That's what you're aiming at. But that's not enough. Then the other 3 that come along with that are, obviously, if we have this branding and positioning, we make this promise and we start marketing like that. If we don't have programming activities that when they come here, right, it's a hollow promise and they don't come back. So you have to have events, festivals, arts, predictable rhythms. The other thing we learned, I'll talk about predictable rhythms. One of the things that we've heard from our retailers and is that they have a few things. One, obviously the night, the evenings are dead. Secondly, the weekends are generally dead. Thirdly is the summer is a lot slower than you'd expect, which I think was news to me. But when I started asking questions, you know, we have a lot of people that go to lakes. We have a lot of people that go out of the area. So the restaurants, the retailers feel it in the summer. It actually, their traffic declines. So you have these peaks. So that's that inconsistency, right? And everybody says, well, Tulip Festival. Well, when the retailers talk, there's 60% of them that do well at Tulip Festival. There's another that don't. In fact, they prefer to close their stores because they can't get people to their hair clinic, those kind of things, right? But even if you have success, Tulip Festival is 5 days if you're lucky. If their stores are open 250 or 300 days a year, 5 days is not enough to keep a store open, right? So it's good, but it's not enough to keep a store open. So we have to work on programming activities that give us a regular cadence, right? That something is always going on. And then maybe the stores will be open, right? And we also have to have activities at night and the evenings that people come downtown for, right? It's a chicken or the egg, right? Well, nobody comes downtown because the stores aren't open. Well, the stores aren't open because nobody comes downtown. Well, which one is it? Secondly is the physical environment. And I'll phrase it this way. We need to move from pistons to pedestrians, right? We need to move to where people can walk and lounge and linger, right? And we don't have to redo the streets, so don't panic on that comment. But we have to create a physical environment. And then the first thing is wayfinding. That's another word that I just learned. And I learned it from retailers and I learned it from folks in Des Moines. Wayfinding is basically finding your way to downtown. We had a group of downtown, the Iowa Downtown Resource Center came to town. And the 2 guys that came had never been here. And so we met at Brad's. And in the first 5 minutes, they offended us, but that's okay. They offended us in a way that they said, this downtown, this is amazing, this place is amazing, but you know what? If we were driving by on Highway 10, we wouldn't even know it's here. That's wayfinding, right? Directing and signage and leading them someplace. So simple things like that. You know, again, I'm slightly competitive, so when they said that, it was like, you gristle a little, but when you take a breath, they were right. So streetscaping, leading them, and they suggested some paths and how to do that. But all of that is creating that environment, right? It's just a setting. That's not enough. And then the final thing is economic vitality, and that is, do you have the right businesses? Strategically, do you have the right business mix? Do you have businesses that are excellent? Are the merchants excellent at what they do? So when you come in, you feel welcomed, you feel like you're wanted, you're needed, and they have what you need. So it's a two-way street, right? We can create it, but the businesses have to deliver on being that kind of place and that kind of experience. And I think you've all had it. If you walk into a store and nobody says hi, they have people that don't know what they're doing, how often do we go back, right? So I think as retailers, we're recognizing that. It's a two-way street. And then tools and marketing. Some folks, they had an idea when they started their business, but I think they'd be honest to say, hey, I didn't know what a 5-year business plan was and all of that. They jumped in and had a lot of energy. Well, well, what tools can we help them in an ever-changing world? What tools can we help them put together? And then once we put it all together, can we market it? So the 4 pillars are sense of place, physical environment, program activities, and economic vitality. So part 1 is 4 pillars and building the foundation. Part 2 is we can do this in a phased approach. We don't have to go and have everything accomplished at once. So we've kind of given you a bridge to the phased approach, which is collaboration, coordination, cooperation, collective effort. Second is programming and activities. Third is the placemaking or the streetscaping. And then 4th is the economic vitality. And I'll walk through that a bit. First and foremost is coordination, collaboration. Again, we're just talking about our community. We're one of 6,000 communities, over 6,000 people. We're in the Midwest. We're in a marketplace that has large competitors close by. Larger competitors, we have a large competitor national, right? So that's just the marketplace we're in. So the only way we're going to succeed is if we're working together, right? Because we don't have unlimited funding, so we all have to work together. So that's part 1, coordination, collaboration, single point of coordination. And it needs to be managed and it needs to be clear. So I'm going to come back to that in a minute. We mean by coordination, aligning calendars, collaborating events. I think you all know that we have Dutch Heritage Boosters, we have Dutch American Museum, we have the Arts Council, but they all have limited funding, right? And if we're going to create marketing and we're going to tell people what's available, we probably need to consolidate that and maximize our spend and our marketing dollars and our messaging. And then we have to have coordinated placemaking, and we have to have merchant excellence, right? All those things have to be coordinated together for us to be in a situation where we can thrive and create predictable rhythms. I just put this up here. Some of the program activity, you're starting to see part of that as a result of this retail gathering effort. Some of the retailers have started trying to work on the programming activities, and you're seeing some of that. Like they're now going to try to have stores open on Thursday nights and try to create an event with that so it draws you in. So they're starting that work. Things like coordination that we don't talk about. Up there, the hospital is having an event. They wanted to coordinate, and they're having it downtown. They wanted to make sure that we publicize that. I don't know how many people know, but Diamond Vogel just invested quite a bit in the Windmill Park, and they're going to have a kickoff, and I believe, I have to double check, but I think it's April 18th.
It is.
And so those are the things that we need to promote, right? And people need to know, and working with the retailers. And so if people are coming downtown, we're trying to draw them in. So that's just an example of the stuff that is starting to happen. I think we can also do it in a test and learn approach. We don't have to go out and do everything. We can take small steps, test them, and then see how they work and keep moving. If we have someone and we have some people that are managing and coordinating and using the feedback and then making adjustments, right? So we can use the test and learn. An example would be the physical environment. We talked about wayfinding. This is just one example of how that could work. We have existing thoroughfares to get downtown, right? And we have an existing thoroughfare on Highway 10. So you see the line on Highway 10, and the suggestion is how could you lead them downtown? The primary route that's been suggested is bringing them down the corridor that we've created with the college and bringing them into and kind of delivering them to the downtown. So you're building up the experience. But the quick route is take them on the dotted path. But just making sure there's wayfinding and signage. So we don't have to create a new path. We don't have to create new streets, right? We just have to deal with what we have and enhance them. And that would be the same for Highway 10. I think that was done a few years ago when they put the sidewalks all the way out to nearly the roundabout, right? That was done for a reason, to get the college kids to be able to move, off Highway 10. So there was some thought and strategy behind that. But that's just an example. Another thing is we have alleyways. To create some of that lingering gathering space, we could use the alleyways. We could use the Windmill Park. Again, we don't have to knock down buildings and create new things. Now, that may come over 10 years, but we don't need to do that now, right? We can start at a smaller scale. So that leads us to who's being asked to do what. And I like to say it this way, okay, if you understand kind of where we're trying to head, now who's going to do what when? And the final question is, how much is it going to cost, right? Which seems to be always the question that drives a lot of what happens. So what we've done is we've first sat down and said, okay, what's the role of the city? What's the role of the development corp? What's the role of the chamber? What's the role of the retailers? And there probably is one more group. It's the ancillary group of the affiliated organizations like Tulip Festival, Dutch Heritage Museum, right? Folks that have an interest because they have events. And what we found is we need to get clearer definition to this. And I think one of the things that today we have in all of this arena for folks that are doing the kinds of things that I'm talking about and community development, we feel like our group felt like there are two people that carry the burden of that, Ryan McEwen and Mike Hoffman. And so we went out and we asked them to list their job duties. Mike has over 60 on his job list. Ryan has over 40. And there's some overlap. And then we get comments about, well, this isn't happening, this isn't happening, this isn't, and what's happening is the two of them, and that doesn't mean that there aren't other city folks involved, because there are quite a few city folks involved in other aspects of recruiting businesses and those kinds of things. But we sat down and was recommended, and so right now, Matt representing the city, Wade Hoffman representing the Development Corp, and Sharon representing the Chamber, we're sitting down and working through what is the charter, what are the purposes for all the organizations, and what are the roles, and how could those be finessed, worked, adjusted, and then what might be a necessary role or two we need to add. So rather than just say, let's just start working on this, let's figure out why it can't execute and what do we need to manage it. So that's part one, who's going to do what when. Timing wise, and this is the phased approach that we're recommending to you, is first, it has to start with leadership and collaboration and coordination, right? Everybody knows if you have a project that you want to execute or run, you need a champion, right? There can be a structure, there can be a committee, there can be a team, but even in that, there's one or two people that are driving it. So we're saying if we're going to start, and we're going to start on a 10-year path, we need to start with making sure that we have the right resources in place for collaboration, coordination, management, implementation, make sure that gets followed through, and then secondly, make sure that they're held accountable, right? That we know what their job duties are. We've all agreed to it. City Council, the Development Corp, the Chamber have all agreed to it. So it's easy to hold people accountable. That's part one. Part two is the programming and activities, putting those together and getting a program and a schedule. And again, that work is starting. But in May through July, we'd like to get that further developed. Placemaking is streetscaping, and I'll come to that in a minute. But that's actually, you need engineered drawings. Like you'd ask us, okay, well, what do you want to do? What does it look like and how much is going to cost? Well, we don't know because we haven't engaged an engineer. We have an idea. We have the vision I just shared with you, but we don't know. Just like when you're building a house, right? Husband and wife, my wife and I are talking about this. We don't have the same vision. So, yeah, we'll see. But y'all know what's going to happen. My vision doesn't mean anything. Placemaking and streetscaping is that we have to have a vision. I'll come back to that. And then finally, economic vitality are the longer things. They're grants, they're funding, they're incentives, they're training, they're bringing people up and creating the environment where we have a great retail experience when people come to town. So that's July through December. So we're talking about phasing that in, and that's leads us to this. I tried to put some estimates together, and these are just estimates, and I'll tell you what the basis of the estimates are. The sense of place and marketing is how much, if we do collaborative, cooperative marketing between all the agencies, affiliates, and organizations, how much could you spend on a marketing program? You could spend a lot more than that, but I think it gets us moving in the right direction. Secondly, the programming activities. I think we can come up with the programming activities. Really what's there is the staff. We're going to need additional staff somewhere, whether it's marketing. We have to figure that out with the work I just talked about. But that would be coming back to you with a recommendation. And again, I'm leading it, but I'm just a consultant. I have no authority. I have absolutely no authority. The authority for spending, the authority for defining jobs, roles, and responsibilities rests with the city, the Development Corp, and the Chamber, not me. So all I'm doing is trying to shepherd and lead the effort to bring it back to all of your organizations for review and approval. The physical environment, the only way we can get started with streetscaping is we need to have an engineer and an architecture firm that starts turning the ideas into tangible, hard, structure. that then we can put cost estimates to, so we can start trying to figure out, is it $1 million, is it $3 million? And just to scare you, or is it 25 million? It's not, right? So that has to happen. And then some of the wayfinding signage. And then finally, economic vitality is more about training, consultation, finding incentive programs, so a little less. So it gives you a ballpark of where the dollars may be. So let's go back to what was the goal that we all tried to put together. The goal was really, we want to ignite Orange City into becoming one of the most recognized and highly visited, charming, picturesque upper Midwest destination experiences. And we have some objective, we can measure that with retail sales. I just told you we're at 143. Well, over a 10-year time period, 200. So we're not saying we're going to outpace surrounding communities. We're not going to, take over Sioux City. It's what can we grow to? The other thing we can do is how many employees. If our businesses are successful, they hire people, right? And that moves people into town. So we can judge by our retail businesses getting increased employment. And finally, just to get recognized, on those, Midwest living, those kinds of things. Are we recognized as one of the small towns, hot spots to visit, coolest places to visit, those kinds of things? We're saying we're gonna commit to measuring it with objective data. Start with more consistent evening, weekend, and summer activity. That increases traffic. The increases traffic shows up in retail spending. Retail spending shows up in employment growth. Employment growth shows in retail spending, show in retail survivability, right? Stores stay open. And finally, in the end, our citizens and our visitors are satisfied, right? They come and they remark about their experience with Orange City. So it's kind of a pyramid that leads, so we can measure it, and a lot of that is objective measurement. So I've talked way too much, but here's two things that we have before the council. One is an endorsement of the plan that we just laid out. And that specifically, if you endorse the plan that's laid out, it gives us authorization to start moving forward. And moving forward would look like, we would finish the work with the staffing, and then we'd come back and say, here's what we're recommending for staffing. And again, it's the city, the development corp, and the chamber that are working on that staff. The next step would be streetscaping. We need that, but we'd have to put a team together. Another one would be working on consolidated marking, but you'd have to put a team together to start working, and you don't want to organize a team that comes up with all kinds of ideas and then they come back and we don't do anything. So first is an endorsement of the overall plan, and then the next steps would be the things that I think we start with. We said coordination, collaboration, cooperation is the step one, and that ultimately is going to result in staffing support for Mike and Ryan. So we're saying if we can complete that work in the next 30 days or so, we would come back and say, here's what we recommend for staffing. And I'll let, Matt's involved in that process. Sharon's here involved in that process. I, again, am just leading the effort. I'm just trying to shape that up. And we have a meeting this week again. So that's being worked on. But if you all say we don't like the plan, we don't want to go this direction, then we don't need to meet. But we're still trying to keep it moving. And then secondly is the financing of architectural engineering fees, which is estimated to be about $20,000 or $25,000, because that gets us moving down the path of getting someone to help us. And then if you endorse the plan, the things that come after that is we could organize a marketing committee to start working on what marketing needs to look like. So the two things I guess we're asking for are three things. First is an endorsement of the plan. And second is these specific decision points, meaning do you approve of the vision and the strategic positioning? Because we all have to agree. The retailers, there was some jostling, right? And Highway 10 is a little different than downtown, right? And Highway 10, we're saying we're going to still take this approach to Orange City, but Highway 10 is going to be the place, and the way we say it is people that come into town, go to work on the south side of town and leave town, right? They go out that way. It's convenient for them to stop at stores. Now we need to try and find ways to attract them downtown to make another mile or another half mile, veer in their traffic. But we're going to still try to, that kind of quick access in and out convenience kind of will still be Highway 10. Doesn't mean it won't happen downtown, but downtown across the board though, we'd like to have that be a direction for the city. The phased approach is the other thing that goes into that. Just I think we can step it up and we can walk it and keep you engaged and know what the next steps are as they're developing. So that's it. I've talked, some of you that work with me know that I talk too much, but
I was gonna say you kept it short.
yeah, exactly. Thanks, Andy. So that's where we're at. That's all the work that has been put together by this group. We've had over 50 retailers involved. We've had multiple meetings. We've had over 50 retailers, being engaged and involved. So I feel like it's a very good representative. And the encouraging thing that I'm seeing from it is some of them are already working, like I said, on programming and activity, and they're already starting to move the ball. But it needs everybody working together. So I'll leave it open for questions at that point. And most of these folks here were involved in the process, and they can jump in as well.
When you say endorsement of the plan, Steve, you're thinking like a 10-year type of thing to get some of this.
Over time, it's going to take 10 years. If you're going to move from 143 to 200, it's not going to happen next year.
But I'm even thinking like the streetscaping and some of those types of things. And
depending on, I think, to be honest, how much the streetscaping is, right? Because you guys have budgeting and you have planning and you have to get in that cycle.
Right.
And then how extensive is it, right? And my guess is like building a house, we start with big ideas and then we shape it back. So that'll be a process.
The staff proposal, would that be a city employee that works on marketing, or would that be somebody you bring on that works on a contract basis or works for the chamber? Or I guess, how do you see that?
That's a good question, and the honest answer right now is I don't know. Because I think what we have to do is we have to say, what is the budgeting, what's the funding, where are the key areas, and obviously what is a position like that cost, and then where does that fit? But I would say the bigger thing for me, Brett, obviously it's money. So if we don't have the funding and we can't afford it, that's one thing. But the second thing that I think has to happen is we have to have a structure where there is a clear line of authority and there's clear accountability. So if we've set these goals and we've set that we can all, whether it's a city or the development, you can manage the performance because you've set out what you expect them to do. You've been clear with them on what you expected. And then you're working with them on a regular basis saying, here's where we're falling short. I mean, that's how I think we get there but I don't know is the real answer to your question. Sure. But you'll know when we make a proposal, and then you can kick the tires and question it.
Yeah. If I can, that was a big point of discussion throughout the whole thing, and the retailers have done a really good job of starting to do some programming and stuff. But he said it earlier, there's got to be a champion that grabs that and has the time and the energy to do that. These guys, when they're doing it at 9, 10, and 11 o'clock at night because they're doing the regular job the rest of the time. So I think whether you can contract some or not, you're going to need what came clear to, I thought anyway, was marketing, communication, and with the communication, it's amongst people. So who's the one generating the conversation ongoing so that when things are being planned or whatever, it's what typically happens with volunteers is they do a really good job, but they run out of steam, or they get tired, and then it dies. And that's the part of this that I think was probably, at least to me, seemed to be the most recurring, was we have to have someone who continues to drive this. And when you talked about Mike and Ryan's overlap of 60 and 40 different job descriptions, some things are going to have to go by the wayside, and it may not be at the time when it's needed. So I think that's where, whether it's a consultant or someone or more than one person, it's got to be something consistent.
No, and I appreciate that. I know we had our meeting at the event center this previous week too, and there were some things that got brought up on, do we try to do some different events? Who's in charge of doing those events? Having the museum be open. It's a great, but I like bringing it all back to one person that knows what's happening.
And we're trying to address, I think, one of our strengths as a community, one of our weaknesses as a community is everybody knows something, but they don't know the whole story. And I'll give you an example. That there can be a frustration that we're not getting things done that need to get done. But like an example, I was talking to Sharon, and we were visiting, and we were talking about what's going on. Well, I knew I had walked down to Ryan's office. Ryan and Mike and Kent were in there. We have a major employer that is looking at a potential expansion. Well, they were in there for 3 or 4 hours because they're working on a multi-million-dollar proposal of leases and so there's only so many hours in the day, right? So you can't criticize that someone, you didn't get this done, you didn't, until we take a step back and say, wait a minute, we got 2 people doing all this, and we have to look at what needs to be done. And I'd say if you go to that side, Russ kind of indicated, I think the things that are popping up right now, and again, we'll come back and give you the objective recommendation, but some of the marketing is something that we notice is less than optimized. Tourism is another thing, like how do we promote, Tulip Festival promotes, but how do you consolidate that, or how do you get more bang for the buck? So those are some of the things. Mike and Ryan do a great job with trying, when they have businesses, between the 2 of them, but that consumes a lot of time. So I think we can get more specific, but obviously I'm not going to do it in front of 40 people or whatever's here.
I like it. The city currently contracts with Spireworks for a lot of their marketing. Is this to replace Spireworks then, or is this something in addition?
I think we'd look at that saying, what is Spireworks currently doing? What needs to be done? How much resource does Spireworks have? And then the question I think that Brett asked is, okay, are we now pushing that from contracted to full-time, or do we just extend the contract? So I'm not trying to dodge your question, Mark. I just don't know until we get that laid out.
It could be just clarifying coordination, so it doesn't have to, I think you can really define that once you know what you're asking.
My other question is, you said there's 6,000 communities with 6,000 people. Has any of them been able to buck the trend of revitalizing their downtowns?
There are some, and I'd have to do more work. I know there are some things like Eureka Springs in Arkansas. It's just south of Branson. But it's difficult, yeah. But I would have to look closer at the ones that are thriving. And I'd say our numbers that we've had for growth are actually pretty good compared to a lot of the surrounding communities and a lot of the smaller rural communities. And I think the ones that succeed are probably on the suburbs, where they're getting the benefit of a larger population. Like I think we all talk about Pella. Pella's a bigger number, but Pella is 45 minutes from Des Moines. It's a different situation than we're at.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it's clear. Again, it's this group of retailers that led the effort, and I just tried to help steer them.
So you would like a direction from
I'd like
council?
2 things. I think one is, like we said up here, do you approve of the vision, the strategic position, and the phased approach? And again, you don't need an answer today because I know you have strategic planning. But the second thing are the specifics on, can we get support for bringing forth a staffing proposal, and can we figure out, can we get the funding for the engineering work to start? Would be the 2 things.
Do you think it would be a appropriate use of community betterment funds for the engineering financing? Something that group could talk about?
Yep, that'd be good. Mike had mentioned that. Again, I don't have any authority, so I can't move anything other than tell you what the issue is, and it needs to be funded.
Do we have time to talk about this tomorrow?
I think we sure can, yeah.
Strategic
Yeah.
planning.
Yeah.
I think one thing I would like to see, I'm sure that there'll be support, or, we all want our retail to survive. I know it's maybe not as busy, but boy, when it's nice out, and I help Carrie out at her New Day consignment, there is a lot of traffic downtown during the day. And I've had a lot of ladies from from towns come in, that's a Kingsley group or whatever. So that makes me excited, and I try to ask how they come around with that. But I would like a report, or I think the council, like if we could have an update quarterly from you. It's just like with strategic planning. You know that well, Steve. You do it all, and then projects come up and things come up, and you don't mean to put it on the back burner, but it gets there, or the middle burner, maybe. But so that's why I like to keep it engaged, and the council and the city staff and Matt and everybody we all can become passionate about it. But I agree with Russ too. You need one person to
It could be someone that you hired to do that.
Yes, exactly.
It just needs to be someone with focus.
Passion, yeah. Yep. Good. Anything else for Steve or anybody else that's served on this committee have comments or reach out to us afterwards? Don't be afraid to do that if you don't want to speak and be on TV, because we're love to hear your opinions too.
Thank you all for your work. I know.
Yeah. Many
Thank you.
hours and- Yep.
Thank you for the time.
Yeah. Great.
I know how you love
Thanks to
long
all of you.
presentations, so thank you.
Yeah. Where we are. So that was number 7, right?
Yeah.
I think everybody do it. We're standing with a couple of later, so.
Get the
Okay, that brings us to agenda number 8, which is exhibit 2 in our packet, and that's to set the public hearing for the tentative approval of the fiscal year 2026-2027 budget. And I think, as we had discussed, we would probably set that public hearing. We're looking at April 20. Am I correct on that, Kent? Yep, okay. That's what we just did, meeting at 4:15. So I think we just need a motion to set that fiscal year budget public hearing for April 20.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 9 is about Dutch Front approval of RTI. We talked about this earlier. I think Kurt's going to come up, and this is the one located out on Highway 10 in Frankfurt Place over by Fairway.
Yes, that is correct. So the city has received the invoicing for the new RTI building. Obviously, previously we had a few meetings on this discussion. So they did submit the bid or the invoice for roughly $340,000. Initial estimates were $330,000, but that included the Frankfurt front and the Highway 10 front. Previous discussion, City Council approved $100,000 for the Frankfurt facing front due to the Dutch theme of the building, not much facing north. So yeah, so we're requesting approval for the $100,000 for the Dutch front.
Okay. Seems like they're working on that all the time. So that's
Coming along
coming along, yeah.
slowly.
So you're just looking for a motion to approve
Yep.
that 100,000.
Yep.
So moved. Support.
Questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Good. Agenda item 10 is exhibit 3 in your packet. And this is a request from Wheeling Properties to the city council about a proposed development in Puddle Jumper Trail. I think Kurt's gonna
Yep. I
talk
will.
to us too. Are you
Yeah,
putting
I
the-
guess can jump in at
Yeah.
any point. They're here and want to talk. But yes, you have the exhibit in front of you. So just to explain that a little bit, this is along 14th Street, close to the elementary school over there. Vision Builders is what you guys approved a while back, is the yellow where their apartment complexes will be. And then across the street to the south is the proposal from the Willinger Brothers. It does give you a tentative schedule for what they're looking at. For this year would be the 2 apartment buildings on 2 of the lots, and then a duplex, and then 2 more apartment buildings. and then another duplex spanned over 5 years. So Billing is basically looking to help them move this project along is to reserve all six of those lots and basically pay for them, pay the full $35,000 a lot as they go on completion of the project, to extend that out for them. So that is the proposal. We'll have obviously a purchase agreement in place for that they have to finish them within so long. This contract we get for 5 years, and then we'll have another agreement for the option to purchase the remaining 4 lots as we move forward. And then we'll have a hold harmless agreement prepared and signed off by both the city and them, holding the city not responsible for anything since the construction has started on the lot, so we won't be liable for anything on that aspect.
Does that fit the zoning of what, do we need to rezone anything?
No, this got rezoned when we did the Puddle Jumper or the Canales project. It's all zoned R2, and it meets the setbacks pretty close to everything there, so.
These weren't the lots that somebody else asked to be reserved, or?
No.
Okay.
No, those were possibly a little farther to the west.
Vision lots are on the north side, just like at this map,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
J Street is on the, so that would
On the east, yep.
Yeah.
And Salem's showing there, that's just like 2 stub streets right now, and then that Salem is actually what's getting extended right now up to St. Paul place, so.
and that's been the list price for those lots?
Yes. Yep.
Sure, it is very close to what we have for purchasing those lots anyway, right? It's just the timing that we're
It's
committing.
pretty much the timing and the payment on completion instead of payment up front. So to help fund the project for them.
Plan to
If
keep
you guys
the-
have anything to say or?
Did a pretty good job of explaining it. And the main reasoning of holding the lot purchase until the end is because we're also developing on 17th Street.
We appreciate your
good.
investment in the community and your willingness to take on a big project. That's great.
Thank you.
That's great. Appreciate it. So you just, all that stuff you said they can do in one motion, right?
Absolutely.
You look, everybody looks at Janet. Okay, Janet.
Yeah.
Me.
Yeah.
Okay, so we just need it.
I think I'll just withhold from this.
Okay.
Oh, come on.
Always a tough one. We just never.
Plan to start west to east, or just see whatever the need arises for, apartments or condos?
15, so that would be second from the east.
Okay, sure.
So it'd be almost kitty corner from the new school, but one
Oh,
lot,
okay.
Okay. Yeah.
which is what we would hope to break ground within a month.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And that also helps with the elevation and the grade, and as you go, I mean, that was another reason for the reservation, just in case you had to.
Right. Yeah, we really want to reserve all 6 lots because we hope to do all the dirt work on all of them, because just to get it all up to par and no water issues.
Awesome. Thank you.
So it's a simple motion, correct? Just, motion to approve the purchase agreement of the lots with Wheeling Properties.
So moved. Support.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Okay, that takes us to agenda 11, which is exhibit 4 in your packet, real estate purchase. Ryan, thank you for coming in and walking us through this one.
You bet. Just want to tie together a couple of things here. What Kurt just went through 2 years ago when I started working through workforce housing and workforce issues, housing was the critical issue within our community. And we've got efforts, and Wheeling Brothers are fantastic to bring in another apartment multi-unit. We have R. Perry, we have RTI Apartments, we have Vision. But in addition to that, we're talking about now North Wyland and the importance of North Wyland to our community, and it is the upper end echelon of the housing that our community continues to need. So Matt and I met with Marty regarding, because he is the owner of the Orange City Area Health System, is the owner of the area that we're detailing here. It's 30, what do I have here? 36.58 acres, exactly. And we've been in negotiations with them. We came to them with a bid of $37,000 per acre. They countered with a bid of $39,393. And working with the staff, Matt, myself, we are advising council to move forward with a $39,393 per acre purchase of this land. There's a number of reasons why it makes sense. We can work through those if you've got questions, but first and foremost, even just working through the urban renewal and TIF potential, the development that the city would put into it would be paid for over the course of time. So you'd be selling the lots, and these are higher end lots, but with TIF we would be able to pay the city back fully and completely. 4 immediate lots. As soon as we purchase this from Orange City Area Health System, there would be 4 immediate lots available. We would extend Frankfurt. We've got the engineering already ready for us. It's perhaps by the end of this summer we'd be able to have Frankfurt completed, and then we'd have an additional 6. So with minimal investment on infrastructure, we'd be able to have 10 total lots ready for the next couple of years, and then we start designing the rest of the development. So staff would recommend approval of a $39,393 per acre purchase of the Orange City Area Health System land.
Thank you for all your work on that, Ryan. I know there's a lot of meetings, but I think it's pretty crucial to Orange City's development of housing on that north side that we continue with the action that we have in North Wyland. So I'd make the motion to approve.
Yeah, we're good with funds.
Can you support it first and then?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, support, no. Yeah.
No problem, yes.
No problem.
Some utility reserves that will
Okay.
temporarily pay for some of that.
Got it.
Any other questions or comments or nonsense? So I'll call for the question. It's been made and supported. Is all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ryan. And that brings us to agenda item number 12, we received a special event permit application from the Chamber for the 2026 Farmers Market, which will begin on Saturdays, beginning May 23 through September 12 on Central Avenue. First and Second Streets North. Mike does have a map in here, Exhibit 4, and it's the same as it. Where'd it go? Did it go?
He'd had enough.
I knew I was going to say something about it. So I think it's the same as it's been, right? So we just need a motion to approve that.
Right.
Support.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. At the March, agenda item 13 is at the March 16, council discussed kind of a formation of a committee to consider a potential facility for recreational health and fitness. This time now is just intended to further discuss that process and the committee. I don't know, Matt, if you want to.
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate the council providing a list of names. I think roughly 25 to 30 names were suggested, and appreciate that. I did lay those out, and I think, for the sake of, since these folks haven't been contacted or anything, we maybe look at this outside of the meeting and just maybe ask for some recommendations that way. But I think there's some items that we should probably review, and I'd be interested in the council's opinions and thoughts on a couple of things. One is the representation, the makeup of the group from the health system, and then also the college. They've both been pretty active in this and previous efforts, and a vision of what this could be. Also in the shared facility the uses of the facility. And so there's that piece. Also, is there interest from the council to have a representative on that group? How the city interacts with the group. Does it act like the downtown visioning, where the group does their deliberation and study, and then present back to the council? Does the council take a pretty active role on that committee? Those things, and then also any other feedback. We can certainly talk about this further tomorrow as well. One of the big projects likely that would be happening with strategic planning would be this type of project. So just to kick off.
So we're thinking a rough number of how many people on this committee again, and the breakdown from college to health.
Probably in the 8 to 12 range, 2 to 3 from the college and the health system. I think that's manageable. Probably not bigger than 12. Certainly that's getting.
And you start getting
large
schedules and trying to get together, and
it could be 10 even. Yeah.
what's a good number?
8 to 12, somewhere in there. I don't know what the right number is, but 11 to break a tie.
True. Okay, but that's on our tomorrow too.
Yeah, in terms of, I think we probably need city representation. I don't know that it necessarily needs to be council. I mean, I'm kind of open to what everybody else knows. So whether that is NOAA or, I mean, I think at the last meeting we kind of talked about NOAA, but having somebody in the city there and
as a conduit, if not.
I'd kind of be inclined to say we would stay off, but
Because
I
if
could
it's just
probably be swayed.
one or two council members, right, then it gets tricky on.
From my perspective on being on the downtown visioning,
What does.
I got to a point where I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to take away from their perspective and what they were coming with. And I just sat there a lot of times, and I probably shouldn't have been, to be honest. Let them come to us with a recommendation and then go from there. So I would kind of lean toward that way with this committee as well. But
You would kind of envision this as kind of your executive team at first, and then at some point, as this gets further down the road, you'd have more subcommittees from there, I would assume.
Yeah.
So eventually there'll be more people or players involved.
So you can think of those names too, because each entity will have kind of their wish list and but NOAA is still a good.
yeah, I think Noah should.
Yeah, he could be
As far as
he's a good thinker and.
city's recreation.
Yeah.
So if there's any other thoughts on the list, we can continue to reach out to those folks.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, administrative reports. Matt?
Yeah, I appreciate that. As a reminder, mentioned the strategic planning meeting tomorrow at 8:30 at the event center. Tim Mormon he's done quite a bit of work, background work for it, and is excited about the process. He's excited about Orange City. Feels there's a lot of positive momentum in the community and in the people involved, so appreciates that and look forward to that tomorrow morning. I anticipate it'll be done with lunch, so half the day. I'd like to invite the council. We have a Missouri River Energy meeting in Sioux Falls, May 6th and 7th. Certainly invited. Jason and Kent and I will be attending that. If the council wants to come and there's an evening reception, you can certainly come to, or if you want to come to some of the sessions, that's fine as well, but one of the more key organizations to the city and utilities. So we have a note here from the Dutch American Heritage Museum thanking us for assisting them with a roof project they had. Their insurance company basically said that they wouldn't renew their insurance without some roof repairs. So I think they worked with Kent on that, on getting that some cost sharing and that repair. So thank you from them on that. So, and finally, the Windmill Park playground equipment showed up, so that'll be being installed. We hired that as part of the package to get installed. So come to see that alongside the park right now, and that'll be happening in the next week or so.
Right before the Vogel thing, probably. The 18th.
Sure.
Close.
They were working out there today. So
Yeah, they're thankful for the weather. I know.
That should be fine.
Yeah. Okay. Janet, do you have anything? I know. Ryan?
There are a number of restaurants that are being jostled a little bit with the Northwestern College purchase of the corner, and I would say 3 are in line to be connecting to Orange City. 1 is considering Alton, but we're still hopeful to keep them in town. We also are bringing in an additional restaurant that we can't name yet, but we will be shortly. So it'll be a good, I think we'll be able to secure our restaurants in town. Just more to come, but there is a lot of workings going on right now with restaurants. So
Good. Thanks for that. Yeah. Kent?
Good.
Jim?
Nope.
Jason?
March 25th, Matt and I attended the meeting to get our Albany project approved. Funding for that, I'm happy to announce that it was approved, $1.3 million in funding. So that the final design of that project will be in 29, and then construction fall at 30. And then also 7th Street pre-construction meetings this Friday, so we'll start seeing some activity there shortly.
You'll have things to do this summer then, won't you? We'll keep you busy. Kurt?
Just planning to only be meeting hopefully later this month, a couple weeks, and going over recommendations for 3 plats and then several zoning code changes possibly. So.
Jenny, how many days?
37 days away.
There we go.
And just always a reminder as we hit this point of planning how grateful we are to all of the many teams that keep this town running and all the things that they do. So
Good.
just a thank you to all of you and to all the many members of your teams as well.
And to you as well. Yep. Council? Andrew?
I have nothing.
Mark? Brad?
Nothing.
Nobody? Dad? The only thing I have for your council to be thinking of, we had a library board member that can't finish out her term, so we are going to, I'd love to take some suggestions and we can think about that and to put in a replacement. I talked to Mark a little bit about it, and the other 2 I think are coming up in July that retire, but a couple of them would like to re-up, so I think that's good. So we just kind of need to have a name out there, and we can get that process going, get it through Lisa, and then back to you guys for approval. So that is all I have, and offer more. Oh, you know what, guys? We're going to go into closed session. I don't think we'll have any, we won't have any action coming out of there. So we need to go into closed session for Iowa Code Section 21.5.1J real estate. So is there a motion for that? And that is a roll call, so I'll start with you, Andrew.
Yes. 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 I was excited.